1979. The world was living its normal life. Cities were noisy. People were making plans. But far away from all of this, in the mountains of Afghanistan, a war was beginning that would change millions of lives. At that time, no one knew that this conflict would become one of the heaviest in the history of the Soviet Union. This was not just a war. It was a collision of ideologies, of interests, and of human endurance. When the first Soviet units crossed into Afghanistan, command centers spoke of a mission, of assistance, of a short operation. But Afghanistan was not a country that could be controlled by orders. The mountains here were not just terrain. They were a weapon. They were shelter. They were a trap. Every road led through danger. Every mountain pass could be the last. Very quickly it became clear. This would be a war without a clear front line. The enemy did not advance in columns. He wore no uniform. He blended among the locals and appeared suddenly. The Mujahideen used everything the land gave them. Caves, gorges, high ground. They struck fast and disappeared, leaving behind only silence and losses. Soviet soldiers, many of them barely out of school, found themselves in a world where the rules of war were different. They were trained for one thing, but faced something else. Heat during the day, cold at night, constant tension, waiting for a shot from behind any rock. Mi-24 helicopters became a symbol of Soviet power. They ruled the skies, supported convoys, and destroyed enemy positions. But even steel could not guarantee safety. Every flight was a risk, every landing a test. The war dragged on. Years passed, losses grew, questions multiplied. Why? For what? And when would it end? By the mid-1980s, the Afghan War had become a heavy burden for the entire country. The economy felt the strain, society, fatigue, soldiers, the limits of their strength. 1986 became a turning point. A new weapon appeared in Afghanistan, the American Stinger missile. The sky was no longer safe. One accurate shot, and a helicopter, once considered untouchable, fell to the ground. Pilots knew every flight could be the last. The advantage that once seemed absolute began to disappear. Fear rose into the air. But the war did not stop. It continued to break people, not only physically, psychologically. Months of ambushes, the loss of comrades, constant tension that did not leave even in sleep. Soldiers returned from missions, but the war returned with them. Nightmares, a gaze that had seen too much, a silence heavier than explosions. By the late 1980s, it became clear there would be no winners in this war. In 1988, a word was spoken that many waited for and many feared: withdrawal. Soviet convoys began moving back, but even leaving was dangerous. The enemy understood. Time was on his side. Ambushes increased. Attacks became harsher. Every kilometer could be the last. The final months of the war were among the most dangerous. Soldiers covered the convoys, knowing that a mistake at the very end cost the most. And then, on February 15, 1989, the last Soviet soldier left Afghanistan. No fanfare, no victory parades, no joy. Behind them, almost 10 years of war. Ahead, uncertainty. Thousands of soldiers never returned home. Thousands returned, but changed forever. The country they had defended was changing. Society did not always understand what they had been through. Heroes were remembered less and less. The Afghan War ended on paper, but not in memory. Its consequences ran deeper than expected. Economic losses, a moral crisis, a loss of faith in the system. 2 years later, the Soviet Union no longer existed. Afghanistan became a symbol, not of victory, but of limits. History remembers dates, but but people remember the price. The Afghan War left its mark not only in the mountains. It changed lives. It changed a country. It changed the course of history. And its echo is still heard today.